5 months ago, Emilia Harper was just another invisible face in the bustling city of New York, a struggling waitress juggling student debt, rent, and the sharp ache of loneliness. Her dreams of becoming a family therapist had been put on hold after her mother's passing. Now, her life was about survival, until one night changed everything. It was the night of the Sullivan Tech Gala, the glitzy annual affair that brought together billionaires, politicians, and celebrities. Emilia had picked up an extra shift as part of the waitstaff, needing the overtime badly. The venue was lavish, almost otherworldly, with grand chandeliers, velvet drapes, and champagne flowing endlessly. She didn't belong there, but she didn't care. Rent was due. And then she saw him. Aiden Cross, CEO of Sullivan Tech, one of the most elusive billionaires in the country. Unlike other CEOs, he avoided the spotlight. Rumors said he was cold, calculating, and all business. But that night, he wasn't surrounded by admirers or reporters. He was alone, leaning against a marble pillar, sipping his drink like a man who desperately wanted to disappear. Their eyes met. For a second, the room faded. It wasn't romance. It wasn't seduction. It was something deeper, a shared loneliness neither of them could explain. Later, backstage near the service kitchen, he thanked her for her work. She smiled and teased that he looked more lost than the interns trying to blend in. He chuckled, genuinely. One thing led to another. Conversations turned into shared truths. He spoke about pressure, expectations, and a recent loss he couldn't talk about publicly. She listened. And somehow, in the quiet shadows of Manhattan, they ended up in a hotel room. They never exchanged names. Just pain. Just comfort. Just one night. Emilia disappeared at dawn, assuming she would never see him again. She told herself it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Nothing more. Until 4 weeks later, 2 lines on a pregnancy test shattered everything. Then came the doctor's appointment. "You're having triplets," the nurse said cheerfully. Emilia had laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. But the sonogram was clear, 3 little hearts beating inside her. Shock gave way to fear. And then, a fierce sense of love she didn't know she had. She cried in the elevator. Then again in the cab. She spent the next few days spiraling, thinking of adoption, abortion, anything that made sense. But every night, she would rest her hand on her belly and whisper, "We'll figure this out." She moved into a smaller apartment, took on more shifts, gave up the last of her education fund, told no one. And then 5 months into her pregnancy, she saw him again. Aiden. He was leaving his building on Madison Avenue. Photographers swarmed him. Emilia stood frozen, watching from across the street as a bodyguard opened the car door for him. In that moment, the babies kicked hard, as if reminding her, that's him. That's our father. She stumbled home, heart racing. What was she supposed to do? Just walk up to him and say, "Hey, remember me from that one night?" Surprise, triplets. She didn't want anything from him. Not money, not fame. But the babies deserved to know. And something deep in her heart told her, he deserved to know too. The next morning, she wrote a letter. "Dear Mr. Cross, we met 5 months ago at your company's gala. You won't remember me, and that's okay. I wasn't supposed to be there, not really. I was waitstaff. That night meant something to me, not because of what happened, but because of how human you were. I needed someone. You needed someone. And for one night, we weren't strangers. I wasn't going to tell you. But now, I have to. I'm pregnant. With triplets. They're yours." She didn't expect a response. But the next evening, there was a knock at her door. Aiden Cross stood outside. No bodyguards. No lawyers. Just him. He looked terrified. And when he saw her belly, his eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know," he whispered. She believed him. They sat at her tiny table with chipped mugs of lukewarm tea. She told him everything, how she found out, what her life had been like, how she didn't want anything from him. He was silent. Then he did something she didn't expect. He asked to feel them kick. When he touched her stomach, one of the babies moved, and he let out a laugh that was half joy, half disbelief. "I want to be part of their lives," he said. "Not out of guilt. Because I want this." Emilia's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't realized how badly she needed someone to say that. Over the next few weeks, Aiden became a constant. He took her to appointments. He learned about cribs and baby monitors. He came over to build furniture. Sometimes he stayed and talked until she fell asleep on the couch. There were no expectations. No labels. Just 2 people preparing for 3 tiny miracles. But the world outside wasn't so kind. The media found out. The headlines were brutal. CEO knocked up Waitress with triplets and one-night stand. Emilia was harassed. Photographers camped outside her building. She lost her job after the manager said it was too much attention for the business. Aiden offered to move her into a secured home. She refused at first, too proud. But after someone followed her from the clinic, she gave in. His penthouse was sterile, cold. But he let her paint the nursery. He bought books about parenting. He even joined an expecting father's support group. Emilia began to see the man behind the fortune, the boy who had lost his parents young, the teenager who buried himself in code and machines, the adult who forgot what it meant to be seen. And somewhere between shared meals and late-night walks on the rooftop, she fell for him. But she didn't tell him. Not when the nursery was finished. Not when he cried during the 4D ultrasound. Not even when he held her hand during the emergency C-section at 34 weeks. 3 babies. 2 boys. 1 girl. Elliot. Julian. Hope. He held them like they were made of stars. And when Emilia opened her eyes post-surgery, she found him sitting beside her bed, whispering to the babies. "I'll spend the rest of my life making this right," he said. "For you. For them." She cried, not because she was afraid anymore, but because she knew she wasn't alone. 2 weeks later, in the quiet of the nursery, Emilia looked at the man holding all 3 of their children and finally said the words she had buried deep inside. "I love you." He looked up, eyes wide. Then he smiled. "I've been waiting to hear that since the night we met."